Hey folks, so today we will continue talking about the sovereign identities. But do not forget to subscribe to my channel, leave some comments, share your opinions, because today it will be a bit controversial topic, and actually I'm not a big fan of this negative like videos, but today we will talk about some quite common misconceptions in a self-sovereign identities. Some of them will be obvious to you, some of them actually not, but yeah, I guess that it's worth to sharing with you. So, what I mean on the misconception. When I read any kind of articles about the self-sovereign identities and verifiable credentials, first that I see actually is triangle. So it's triangle of issuer, verifier, and holder, and all of the things. That holder is a central guy. Yeah, it's true, but what I observe that quite often people see these roles as a permanent roles and even as identities of the user. First of all, I don't believe that we obtain a single identity in our life. I believe that our identity depends on the social environment and just on the interaction. So our identities changed while we interact with others. So I see this holder, issuer, and verifier as a concepts that appear only in the process of exchange, so in the process of interaction. And it's the misconception that people see it as a permanent roles. So what I mean that first of all, on this classical triangle, we have the issuer and holder and all other things, but on practice, for example, if you have the process of sharing the VP to the verifier, you as a holder in some point of time do the full scale issuance, create the VP, sign a VP, and share it with the verifier. So you act as a issuer in the process of exchange together with the verifier, but you are the holder in the same time. And so these roles could flip even in the single transaction of exchange, and it's not clear to people. The same misconception related to the triangle quite often. It's we know that verifier came to you and asked you to share some credentials. Yeah, sounds cool, but we're not talking about the reverse connection of holder and verifier. So how verifier should know that he should ask you something? And yet another thing that this reverse operation, that sometimes verifier asks you to share some type of credential, but a lot of protocols support the mode when you could give verifier another offer of something different, but something that could confirm the same fact. It's not so common, it's quite oftenly ignored, but in this case, holder could be the proactive guy that talk with the verifier, and it's missed quite often in the triangle. And the same, so yeah, issuer of the credential to holder, it's clear, but quite often it's not how we behave in real life. If you need the driving license, you will go to the authority and ask them to issue you something if you will pass some exam. And it's yet another active game between the holder and issuer. So this triangle is full of misunderstanding, but the main misunderstanding that it's no permanent roles. These things appear only in the process of exchange, and that's it. So another misconception of the triangle, actually, you see, we're talking about this in this area, is the connection between the issuer and the verifier. So it's the main question of triangle, it's the trust. And it's yet another misconception. So you get the credential, you share the credential with the verifier, but what will verifier check? First of all, he will check your signature and make sure that VP belongs to you is true. But the next thing, that verifier should check the issuer, and the verifier more interested in trust to the issuer. And this topic, it's not so clear to others that this connection and root of trust between the issuers and verifiers quite tricky, and it is a main question of all our industry that we need to solve together. Quite often we are lucky, so issuer and verifier could be the same authority, so you should trust to yourself, it's easy. What is more fun that people do not notice that actually issuer are verifier, because when issuer get the data from you, the job zero of issuer just check the authenticity and check the data before he will issue any kind of credential based on this data. So issuers are always verifier zeros, and yeah, so you see, you could be the issuer, holder, and verifier simultaneously, yeah, you could be issuer and holder in the same process of the transaction. So this triangle is full of surprises, and people quite often understand it wrongly. But the main mistake of the triangle, that we get this SSI concept as is, we quite deep, we understand it, and we go to the users and try to sell it to the users, and users get completely lost. Because what I suggest to do, that take your domain, take some real interactions, some appealing example, that for example you as a freelance artist wants to get the loan based on your income and whatever, and then you go to some real life players that give you the confirmation of your income or something like that, that allows you to get the loan to build you the next project or something that connected to the real life. So it's a huge amount of misunderstanding in triangle. And I already mentioned the relation with the issuer and verifier actually is a big deal. And here we will start talking about yet another thing, that trust. We all try to solve the trust problem with the self-sovereign identity, and it's cool, but our protocols have couple of layers, yeah, and we could satisfy in this not trust but authenticity of the data or the value of the data. We have couple of layers. So the most lower level is the integrity of the data. The data was not changed and all other things. Usually it's enough to have some kind of hash shared together with the data. It's easier to achieve. Then the authenticity of the data. Yeah, so this problem actually solved exactly with the signature, that we signed something, and then you could validate the signature, then you could correlate the author of the data with some kind of system that you have, and it's usually called the authenticity. And the next layer and most complex one is the veracity or trust of the data, that we build the governments that actually correlate the signature and the person and set some values and set some rules on top of the data that we have. And our common misunderstanding that SSI give us trust, but SSI give us the first two layers, the authenticity and integrity of the data. Trust should be built. We should build trust in a society somehow. We should build this trust in our systems. And SSI is not the magic bullet. It's give you just the authenticity of the data. That's it. All the rest should be supported somehow with the protocols, with the system that we build. And it's not came out of the box. So if you try to sell classical SSI as a trust solution, you're doing probably it wrong. And the last thing, and the most sad thing, I would say, we already have enough of sad things here, that term verifiable credential is completely horrible and wrong. Because first of all, credential is more something in the security space, but it's have nothing nowadays in this with security. And verification, what kind of verification we mean? Because usually what I mentioned before, that you get the authenticity of the data and usually authenticity of the issuer, but you have nothing about the holder. You have nothing about who owns this credential, and you should solve this problem somehow in a payload of the credential. And right now people have a tendency to say not the verifiable credential but verifiable data, because it's more universal. It's more not just a credential, it's any kind of data. So I see the VC as containers. Yeah, so the verifiable, authentic data containers, ADC, is even the existing term. So I like this term more because it's really describe what it's about. And you know, containers in a transport made the revolution. Containers in some point in infrastructure together with the Docker and isolation of the operation system make the revolution. VCs as a data containers that have the authenticity, I believe that will change a lot of things, but if we will use them properly. So, misconception in Triangle. Misconception in understanding that we get trust for free. And the biggest one is misconception what the verifiable credential actually mean and what verifiable credential actually is. It's the 3 pains that I was keen to share with you. Share what you think about it. Maybe you have yet another good examples of this stuff. I will be happy to hear from you. And right now, see you. Choose.